Friends, it's finally happening. Filming for HBO's Harry Potter series Season 1 has begun, and as a trustworthy muggle in the wizarding world, I have thoughts. Lots of them. We have over a year before Season 1 premieres, so I'm looking forward to sharing all my speculation and any theories in the meantime. But for the sake of my sanity and your screen time, I first want to discuss scenes we have never seen adapted for film or television. I'll be going over the top 10 scenes we missed in the first movie, their importance, and their relation to the entirety of the series. And if HBO wants to do this right, they better Accio some of these straight from the source material. Accio Attorney, a trustworthy muggle in the wizarding world. The best storytellers show us who a character is, they don't just tell us, and when it comes to the HBO series, I hope the writers remember that, because one of the most important early character moments that never made it into the film is Harry's very first meeting with Draco Malfoy. The movie did a solid job showing Harry's wide-eyed wonder as he steps into the wizarding world for the first time. I thought Diagon Alley was magical, no question, but I think the scene could be a little bit better. The book gives us something the film skipped, Harry and Draco's first introduction at Madame Malkin's Robes for All Occasions. Not only is this their first encounter, it's also our first real glimpse into Draco Malfoy. Not as a schoolyard bully, or at least not yet, but as Harry's foil. In the book, the scene is subtle, but it's also revealing. Draco's pompous, entitled, and already showing disdain for muggles and all of Hufflepuff. But here's the kicker, he doesn't even realize he's talking to the Harry Potter. By overlooking Harry, Draco unintentionally reveals everything about himself. While the rest of the wizarding world is buzzing because of the celebrity sighting at the Leaky Cauldron, Draco's too self-absorbed to even notice. This moment sets the tone for their dynamic moving forward. Draco represents everything Harry's going to push up back against. Ego, blood purity, arrogance. And Harry, quiet and observant, just stands in stark contrast to that. He's kind, curious, and just trying to make sense of this strange new world. It's a great example of showing us character through interaction and not slapping us with exposition. If HBO wants to do justice to the source material, this scene absolutely belongs in the show. Let the characters reveal themselves, just like the book did. The next scene I want to see takes place at Hogwarts, in a small room you may have forgotten. Off of the entrance hall is a small chamber that's absent from the movies, but has a big impact on Harry. All the first years are ushered into this room before the sorting ceremony, and just like in the movies, Professor McGonagall welcomes the students into the room, tells them about the 4 houses, talks about house points. But the movies don't really depict the anxiety that the students had for the sorting ceremony. In the books, Harry says this is the most nervous he's ever been, including the time he had to tell the Dursleys he turned his teacher's wig blue, and the Dursleys hate magic. I think it's a very real moment for him. He's always had a nervousness about the wizarding world since he didn't grow up in it or know anything about it. But the nervousness was also paired with excitement and fun. But this instance is extremely terrifying for him. And while the movies do show the kids a little hesitant when their names are called, it doesn't really capture the moment as well as the books. There's no confrontation with Malfoy, there's no comic relief with Neville finding Trevor the Toad. It's just the students, Draco included, looking terrified. Plus, anticipation is ramped up even more when the ghosts fly into the room. Yeah, that's right. Harry's first introduction to ghosts is in this small room, and it's where we get our first mention of Peeves. Yes, Peeves the Poltergeist. We deserve to see Peeves. Peeves isn't just an annoyance like his name suggests, he's a major part of Hogwarts, having made the castle his home since the beginning. He's been a major pain in every caretaker's side since Hankerton Humble and onward. There's even a great story on Pottermore that I recommend you all read about the last attempt to evict Peeves in 1876 by caretaker Rancorous Carp. Just imagine a castle with hundreds of students, an aggressive poltergeist, and a very underpaid caretaker. That's a liability nightmare. But not only does Peeves play a fun, albeit annoying part in Harry's story, he also has an important role at various points. Peeves' distractions usually allow Harry to slip away from Filch when sneaking around, and he plays a part in one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, the departure of Fred and George Weasley. And Peeves, whom Harry had never seen take an order from a student before, swept his belled hat from his head and sprang to salute as Fred and George wheeled about to tumultuous applause from the students below and sped out of the open front doors into the glorious sunset. I'm confident HBO will do the right thing and include Peeves. Hogwarts just isn't the same without him. Okay, moving on from the memorable to the mundane, I think we also deserve more class time. Way more class time. Look, I get it. The last thing an 11-year-old is dying to talk about is homework. But for us muggles, this is a magic school. We want to see the lessons, the day-to-day, the weird, wonderful, occasionally dangerous reality of actually learning how to be a wizard. And here's a wild fact. Did you know that in the entire Sorcerer's Stone movie, Harry doesn't cast a single spell? Not one. Like, come on. In the books, he certainly tells us all about his classes, but in the movies, they barely show up. We don't see Harry in Defense Against the Dark Arts or Herbology until the second movie. We never see astronomy. And History of Magic isn't even referenced. Professor Binns' major moment is given to Professor McGonagall in Chamber of Secrets when she explains to the students the history of the chamber. Come on, give me some justice for my boy Binns. I'm really hoping the series does a deeper dive into what it actually was like to be a student at Hogwarts, especially for first years. Give us the lectures, the classwork, the homework. Magical education is part of what makes Hogwarts feel real in the books, and I want that to come through in the series too. And part of that day-to-day life for Harry and company also includes the weight that house points had on the students. It's funny to me that Harry, Ron, and Hermione worry so much about losing 5 or 10 points here and there when there's an actual evil wizard trying to kill them. But I guess that's the point, right? These are children. They worry about things that don't matter. Hermione's more worried about getting expelled than killed. And if HBO is able to include more of an emphasis on house points, I think it'll make the House Cup victory at the end that much sweeter. Plus, I think it's also really cool to see the hourglass filled with rubies, diamonds, sapphires, and emeralds filling up or emptying based on a student's triumphs and tragedies. And on the topic of rule breaking, we absolutely deserve the midnight duel. Harry and Draco dueling it out? Come on, who doesn't want to see that? Well, I guess we'll have to wait for season 2 and 6 for that, because Draco and Harry never actually duel in their first year. For those who haven't read the books, Draco challenges Harry to a duel at midnight in the trophy room, but he doesn't show up. Instead, he ratted on Harry and Filch is there to catch the students out of bed. But including this non-existent duel is great for a couple of reasons. One, there's another scene that really shows Draco's character. He's a coward and not able to follow through on anything, something we'll see Draco continue to do throughout the series. And it also shows his connection with Filch, since this won't be the last time the two team up to take down Harry. And 2, the scene is also how Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville stumble upon Fluffy at the entrance to the underground chamber guarding the Sorcerer's Stone. In the movie, the stairs take the trio down a wrong hall and they inexplicably freak out and try to hide from Mrs. Norris, but in the book it actually makes sense to me that they're running away from Filch and Mrs. Norris when they stumble upon Fluffy, as opposed to just walking home from class. And honestly, I just want to get another chance to see the trophy room. Besides one scene in the Goblet of Fire, which wasn't even accurate, we haven't had the chance to see the trophy room, even though it makes a number of appearances in the books. And now on to Quidditch, my favorite thing in Harry Potter. My favorite video game of all time is Quidditch World Cup, my favorite book of all time is Quidditch Through the Ages, and the biggest letdown for me when watching the movies was how they just glossed over the Quidditch World Cup in the Goblet of Fire. And if I'm being honest, I think the Quidditch scenes throughout the entire movies were also underwhelming. Quidditch is one of Harry's main personality traits. He loves the sport, he's good at it, it's fulfilling. And even though we do get a few scenes across the movies, it plays such a huge part of his life. And it's even a way I think that he feels connected to his father, who he never really knew. So the show, I think, can do a great job of including more Quidditch, and in Sorcerer's Stone, a great way to do this is by including the Gryffindor Hufflepuff game. Not only is it more Quidditch for us fans to watch, but it also includes Snape. Yes, Snape. Not as someone jinxing or counter-jinxing Harry's broom, but as, wait for it, the referee. Doesn't that sound amazing? Harry's nemesis trying to keep him from winning, Ron and Draco rolling around in the stands, Neville taking on Crabbe and Goyle. Man, I think this game has it all, and it doesn't even last 5 minutes. And as someone who loves every aspect of the castle, it also includes a new location. At the end of the game, Harry ends up taking his broom to the broom shed, which we never see in any of the movies. And it's here that he notices Snape and Quirrell heading to the Forbidden Forest, so he follows them and eavesdrops on them, rather than stumble upon them in the middle of the night like the movies show. Norbert only gets one scene in the movies, which is truly a shame because Norbert is a dragon, and he's Norwegian. And Hagrid loves dragons. He even told Harry he's wanted one ever since he was a child, the morning after they first met. Although everyone knows that dragon breeding was outlawed by the Warlocks Convention of 1709, so Hagrid, here's some free advice: never admit to wanting to commit a crime, even to an 11-year-old stranger. But Hagrid's love of dragons compels him to even go to the library and look up books on the dragons. I personally thought this scene was hilarious, and even tried to find the dragon section in the library when I played through Hogwarts Legacy, the game. And because it's illegal to breed dragons, it also sets up for the reader that Hagrid got the dragon under mysterious circumstances, which pays off later when we find out that he accidentally told Quirrell how to get past Fluffy. In the end, Hagrid has to give up Norbert, and Harry's left to sneak Norbert up to the astronomy tower to give the dragon to Charlie Weasley, another character who we never see in the movies, who is studying dragons in Romania. The trip up to the tower with Norbert can be an opportunity to give Filch some more screen time, as well as the castle, and for me, I just really enjoy seeing the castle at night. As far as advancing the plot, it also does a better job of landing Harry in detention. Because even though Harry was doing the right thing in returning the dragon, he still broke the rules and he still got punished, which I think is important for his later character development when he has to do the right thing and, you know. Anyway, speaking of detention, we need a better detention scene. Sure, the movies show Harry, Ron, and Hermione and Draco wandering through the forest, but it doesn't include Neville. It doesn't include Draco scaring Neville, and it doesn't include the Centaurs. Not only is there a herd of Centaurs in the Forbidden Forest, but they show up somewhat frequently in the series, and I think the first season would be a great time to really do a better job of introducing them. In the scene, we start to understand the strained relationship between Centaurs and the Wizards. Bane, who's the leader of the Centaurs, criticizes Firenze for intervening and saving Harry from Voldemort. Bane says that the Centaurs are sworn not to set themselves against the heavens, and that by saving Harry, Firenze was ignoring what was to come in the movement of the planets. Earlier, we hear both Bane and Ronan, who's another Centaur, mentioning how Mars, which is a planet named after the god of war, was unusually bright. The Centaurs' form of divination reveals the same thing that Trelawney's prophecy reveals, that Harry and Voldemort are destined to battle and only one will survive, which I think is a huge revelation, because it shows once again that Voldemort's prejudice contributes to his downfall. At times he dismisses Harry, Kreacher, and Centaurs as having capable magical abilities, and that's ultimately to his detriment. Magic in whatever form is still consistent across cultures. Sure, you might need a different conduit to harness it, but whether you're a seer like Trelawney or a Centaur who looks at the stars, magic still speaks the same message, and the Centaurs were skilled in reading that. In fact, Firenze even becomes the new divination teacher at Hogwarts after Dumbledore recruits him, which you would only know from the books, but Dumbledore seems to have a working relationship with the Centaurs, even though they and Wizards are kind of at odds, because, spoiler alert, the Centaurs all appear at his funeral in Half-Blood Prince. But maybe that's a video for Season 6. Turning back to Season 1, the most important scene that we deserve is Snape's potion riddle. This is the second to last challenge before reaching the Sorcerer's Stone, right before Dumbledore's Mirror of Erised. Snape was the final line of defense before the headmaster himself, which hints at Snape being Dumbledore's closest confidant, his right-hand man, so to speak, and gives us an early indication of the extent to which Dumbledore trusts Snape. The scene also adds complexity to Snape's character immediately before the climax of the book. Hagrid and the teachers have been saying it all along. Why would Snape protect the stone if he's the bad guy? And true, Quirrell also protected the stone with a troll, but as we see earlier, 3 11-year-olds were able to take down a troll, so obviously Voldemort would be able to as well. For those who are unfamiliar, Snape's challenge includes a line of 7 unmarked potion. One needs to find the correct potion in order to advance. Choose wrong, and you die. The answer lies in a riddle written on a piece of paper, and with Snape's challenge, you don't need magic to solve it, you need logic. The same type of logic game you need to learn in order to get into law school, so this is Accio attorney approved. Hermione talks about how plenty of wizards don't have logic, and I think it's kind of cool that Snape, who had a muggle father, relies not on magic to protect the stone, but on human logic. And how cool is it that Hermione, who also has muggle parents, is the one to solve the mystery? This challenge gives Snape some humanity, brilliance even. Hermione herself calls the task brilliant. And I also think it gives a little bit of insight into how Voldemort thinks. Someone who's so reliant on being a powerful wizard might overlook a muggle skill. And the whole story, Harry's adventure in this first book, is a mystery, or a riddle of sorts. Once you solve Snape's riddle, you solve the mystery of the book. That there's only one person waiting for Harry in the next room, and it isn't Severus Snape. It was a fantastic cliffhanger in the penultimate chapter, and a scene that the viewers deserve. Also, Snape using a riddle? I see what you did, Rowling. Alright, I've made my case, and I'd really love to hear yours. Are there any scenes you're excited to see in the new series? Anything I missed? Let me know. I read every single comment whether you agree or disagree. Either way, let's get into some good discussions about the new HBO series, and let's have some fun. Also, please consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here in our corner of the castle, and I'd love for you to be a part of it.